and action.
इंजीनियरिंग करने के अलावा सब कुछ करता है. Are we rolling?
Yeah.
All right, guys, all the listeners. Hi, my name is Nancy Sahota, and I am the content head at WanderOn. With me is a very dear friend of mine and the founder and CEO of WanderOn Travel Community, Govind Gaur. So, Govind, over to you. आप बताओ सीन क्या है इस शो का, इस पॉडकास्ट का. I mean, why another podcast?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Govind, and I'm the captain of the ship, and the ship is called WanderOn, which we have been building for the last 7 years, and we're thinking to build it, I think, for an entire lifetime. And I have been reading a lot about what's happening in the travel scene. I think the numbers speaks volume about how this industry will grow in the next 6-7 years, right? So
Okay.
currently it contributes to around 9.1% of the total Indian GDP, which is a crazy number. And it's growing at a CAGR of 12%. So technically, if everything goes well, travel will contribute to at least 14 to 15% of the entire Indian GDP.
Okay.
And that is a really big number, right? So we are talking immense amount of job creations. We are talking immense amount of wealth pouring in the travel industry, right? So Scene Kyaa Hai will probably make people understand what's happening around travel. It will be like an all things travel podcast.
Yeah.
We'll talk about a lot of employment opportunities that can be there in the travel. Let's say if you are a young budding entrepreneur, how you can create something in the travel scene, right? If you are someone who is probably graduating from your college, right? And if you want to be there in the travel industry because it's very exciting for people, right? How you can make your career out of it, right?
Right.
If you are into content creation, how you can actually make content to make money out of it, right? And if you are in the travel, if you're already working in the travel industry, right? What sort of opportunities you have, how the industry is evolving at at a global level, right? How we are shifting from a more holistic travel agent model to a more online marketplace model, right? How the entire artificial intelligence will influence the entire travel industry, right? So there is a lot happening in the scene, and I think it's the right time to start something which resonates with like a lot of people.
Right. Do you think, is it safe to say that it is a roadmap to all the aspiring bunnies and nanas of the world?
There are already a lot of bunnies and nanas in the world, right? The point is they don't identify themselves yet, right?
Right.
So I think after like let's say listening to the crazy ass stories that travel has, right? If you can inspire someone to like out there and make something around travel, I think the whole motive of this podcast will be
Right.
achieved. Yeah.
Also because I think कि travel industry थोड़ा fickle माना जाता है. It's not like a mainstream
Correct.
industry to be working or maybe creating a career or to know कि what is behind the scenes of it.
Correct.
So I think if people can get to know about it
Yeah.
and जो भी उनके doubts हैं, maybe with respect to their careers or maybe with respect to being like a traveler.
Yeah.
So I think with you and with WanderOn as a machinery that we have built together, I think एक बहुत ही solid और होता है ना कि well experienced
Correct.
and candid information provide कर सकते हैं हम
Correct.
on Scene क्या है, right? Entrepreneurship के ऊपर Scene क्या है will cover, right? We will talk about job opportunities, and of course we are going to talk about travel stories because we have being functional since the past 7 years. I think we have a lot of travel stories on our end of the
Yeah,
thing. So
of
I think it is a very ripe time,
Yeah.
and I think now we are in a position कि we can let out those stories to people now.
Yeah.
एक बहुत ही credible audience है, सुनना भी चाहते हैं, I'm sure. And travel is something that is so interesting
Yeah.
that anybody, I don't say कि कि this person is a traveler because I feel everybody is a traveler.
Yeah.
So I think you tap into everybody's aspirations and dreams by all of this. So travel stories की हम बात करेंगे इस पे. तो I think to begin with,
Yeah.
सबसे पहले तो अपने घर की कहानी पे ही बात करते हैं. So what exactly is WanderOn? Since it is your brainchild, I think coming from the words of the founder of the CEO. I think that is the best explanation for anybody who may not know what WanderOn is, or who wants to just know more about it, the thought process of it. What are you building, Govind? What is your thought?
Okay. We were like young graduates from NIT Kurukshetra, and then we were all figuring it out, just like any young, college grads who just got out from a college and who try to understand what the world means. Because after college, world is a different place altogether, right? Yeah, you are absolutely on your own, right? So I got two campus placements from my college, and I was like working in the business analytics field. I was like just trying to make sense out of life. I was just trying to understand that, what should I do to make sense of what I'm doing, right? Like the location of our college was very prominent to like the Himalayan region of India. So I used to travel a lot, and especially in my final year, I used to travel a lot, right? Every
Okay,
weekend.
so the listeners and the viewers who don't know, we are talking about NIT Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
And yes, that happens to be on the foothills of Himachal. I think it's hardly like 3-4 hours away that we
Yeah,
first
2 hours,
reach.
two and a half hours, yeah.
So that is what we are talking about. And of course, a very credible college.
Yeah.
Of course, hence the placements that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I remember that, celebrating your placements together.
Yeah.
So
don't
yeah.
tell everything about it. Please don't tell everything about it.
All right, something for the BTS also.
Yeah.
But so can you elaborate, like, or if you can tell the audience, like, which were your companies and what exactly were you doing in there?
So like I got two campus placement. One was in delivery. It was an e-commerce logistics startup.
If everybody knows
I
of it.
was working there as a planning engineer. Yeah, I was like placed in one more company called Mu Sigma. It's again a big data
Right.
analytics firm. So I went to Bangalore. I was like शहर भी नया, expenses भी double.
Expensive.
तो वहाँ पे 3-4 महीने काम किया. फिर समझ में आया कि यार वो भी like it's not like I was not feeling it. I'll be very honest with you. I think there was something was missing. I was like not very happy from inside. I was like, I cannot do this for the rest of my life, right? I figured that out, that it is very, very important to genuinely love. Like once, let's say sometimes people say that you just love it for the sake of saying it.
Right.
But if you genuinely love it, right, you will be very motivated in the morning. You want to do it again and again because
Even through the testing times.
yeah, even through the testing time, perseverance can only be achieved if you love something.
Right.
है ना, relationships Nancy बहुत hard होते हैं, है ना. तो अगर आप किसी को प्यार करते हो, ठीक है, genuinely प्यार करते हो,
Analogy coming in.
तभी आप चांद तारे तोड़ने की बातें करते हो ना.
Right.
क्योंकि आप genuinely प्यार करते हो उससे, तभी आप बोलते हो कि मैं चांद तारे तोड़ के लाऊंगा. So that is how much you should love what you do,
Right.
to genuinely make something big out of it, right? So and then when I was in my, let's say when I was working, I never loved it. Like all the companies were nice, everything was nice, but I was not getting a kick out of it. And I understood, like I was reading a lot about travel market because मेरे को पता था travel में कुछ करना है ना. So when I was anticipating, let's say when I was reflecting upon my journey in college, how I used to travel, right? So I understood two very important aspects of traveling, right? One, I was doing a lot of solo traveling, right?
Okay.
In my college days, right? And when I was traveling solo, I was meeting with like a lot of people, right? I used to stay in homestays, I used to stay in hostels. Since I was traveling solo, I used to meet a lot of people, right? So the kind of conversations that I do with them, let's say the kind of memories that I've created with unknown strangers was something very, very impactful on me. Like it just changed my life from, let's say, something that I don't know and to something that I really know about, right?
Okay.
So when I was reflecting upon it in Bangalore, I thought that, hey, the social part of travel, which is when you're meeting with a lot of people, is very interesting aspect because if I'm loving it, I'm sure a lot of people will love it,
Right.
And then second part is, I think I was doing a lot of, offbeat experiences. So it involves like a small amount of adrenaline rush.
Right.
Right. Like let's say if I'm doing something which not a lot of people do, it involves a lot of adrenaline rush, right? And that adrenaline rush, once done, it becomes a very nice, satisfying feeling that hey, I've done it.
Right.
Right. So I have felt both of those things when I was doing my solo traveling. For youngsters, let's say for young generation of millennial and Gen Zs, I figured out in the market and nothing of that sort was there, right? And I was, let's say, building upon that. And then I left my job Both Musigma and the delivery, of course, was there. And then I was grateful enough that I was, let's say, my family planned a trip to Europe, around the
Okay.
similar time.
Okay.
And then I went to Europe.
Call it fate.
Yeah, call it fate, call it like destiny. Like Steve Jobs says one thing, that you just connect the dots looking backwards and not forward, right?
Right.
So now when I look back, I think that Europe trip was one of the very eye-opening trip for me, because when I went there, I understood like how the backpacking culture was being very prominent there.
Right.
How like a lot of youth was doing backpacking, right? And it was like the next thing in travel.
Right.
So I came back and I was doing my internal reflection of social traveling in India. So I thought, hey, like I think we should create a community around social traveling where we do like a lot of backpacking experiences. We'll probably start small, but let's see how it goes.
So if I have to ask you, let's say there is somebody who is not on Instagram,
Yeah.
okay? Or let's say, phrase it like that, if you have to explain it to a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
what exactly is WanderOn? How would you put it?
Yeah. So I'll just explain in the layman term, WanderOn is basically a platform where you can come and you can meet a lot of interesting people while you're traveling to interesting destinations, right? So like that's the gist of it, right? It's a platform for you to meet very interesting people. It's a very safe, let's say, community setup for people to meet, and in a very safe space also, right? So let's say that has been the vision of the company in the last in the last 4-5 years, that we want to create a very safe platform for especially the women solo travelers, right? I'll tell you one data. I think more than 52% of the travelers who travel with us are women travelers, and they are women solo travelers, right?
So your idea from Europe that you
Yeah.
got, I mean, basically getting exposed to the culture
Yeah.
is what you thought that, okay, this is what we are going to seed
Yeah.
in India. I mean, that
Yeah.
can be an opportunity, and hence your first trip to Kasol.
Yeah, that was, let's say, the initial vision of it.
Right.
And vision keeps on changing, like not changing, it keeps on tweaking,
Right.
like every 6 months. But like that, that was the ultimate vision, that we need to create something around the social traveling part. We start small and then we make it big. So we started with Kasol, Khirganga. Everyone chipped in, and then it was like a nice trip. I found my co-founder there, Chirag. He was a part of the trip. And that's how I actually got my team. Chirag was the second one. Ravi, the head of tech, he was the third one, and then Madhusudan Jaju came in, so he was the fourth one, right? So like I was very sorted कि मुझे किसको लेना है, because I think I know these guys from almost like, by that time I know these guys for almost like 5.5 years, right? And like there is one learning here which I want to share with you and with, of course, everyone, that like as a co-founder you are marrying them. Like it's a truth, right? So you tend to spend a lot more time with your co-founder, or let's say you tend to spend almost similar time with your co-founder as you spend the time with your partner after you're married, right?
Right.
So you're technically marrying your co-founder, right? So it's a marriage, right? And when you're marrying someone, imagine the kind of checks that you do. Ye hai, ye hai, ye hai, ye hai, ye hai,
Finding the right one.
Yeah, exactly. For finding the right one, right? So it's very important to find the right co-founders, right? Most of the startups, they fall or they break apart is majorly because of, let's say, the co-founders dispute.
So let's say, like, so when this team was
Yeah.
functional, like you
Yeah.
had your, can we say like these are like the Pandavas of your
Yeah,
after
yeah,
WanderOn,
yeah,
after
yeah.
NIT Kurukshetra?
Yeah,
hai na?
yeah, yeah.
So once you had your team with you, that's how WanderOn came into picture. Because
Yeah.
I remember back in that day, Instagram पे मैं भी पेज को फॉलो कर रही थी. I mean, it was an Instagram page and you see कि ठीक है आपके पिक्चर्स थे, जाजू का वो नाजा नाजा वाला वीडियो आया था लद्दाख में, you guys were dancing, and I
Correct.
think that was so inspiring at that point of time.
Yeah.
क्योंकि हमने कभी नहीं देखा था.
हाँ.
एक तो खैर social media was fairly new and Instagram was, that was just the time.
Yeah.
And all these heavily edited pictures, all the bright poppy colors, and that was the aesthetic back then. But now I will not approve of those heavily edited pictures.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was very inspiring, and I think that's when it got to me also,
Yeah.
and within my friend circle also back then. Ki, theek hai, there is this company that's WanderOn, and they are probably taking strangers together on
Yeah.
on adventures for
Yeah.
them to meet and socialize.
Yeah.
So once you got all these five, like, your team, five of you got together. So that's when you thought, ki, theek hai, now we take it to the world and now we announce
Yeah.
that we are here
Yes.
and this is what the product is.
Correct. So like we did like a lot of brainstorming because initially it was like all about weekend getaways and all. So we sat on like a table and we like, what is the plan? What is the roadmap that we have to build? So after like a lot of, let's say, brainstorming, we did that, hey, like we can create like a lot of interesting products, like how we did for weekend getaways. We can do it for bigger destinations. We increase the ticket size from, let's say, 5,000 to 15,000 and we see how people react, right? So we did that for New Year's and we got crazy response. There's this one trip called Himachal Backpacking. We launched that. We were expecting around 13 people there and more than 55 people came.
Himachal backpacking is a dream trip.
Yeah, it's like a very beautiful, it's like one of the best trips. Now I think Europe is, but like it's like one of the best curated trips back then. So we understood that like if you create nice product for people and you price it at a decent price, right? And if you include that sort of experience that people want, I think people will come, right? So Himachal Backpacking was technically the PMF, what we call product market fit. That, hey, like if you make nice product, people will come and people will pay a price for that.
Right.
So Himachal Backpacking was a great success. So we got like the gist of it.
Right.
And then we were like very smart. We were like, ki chalo, like let's launch multiple products around that. So after Himachal Backpacking was successful, we launched Spiti, we launched Meghalaya, we launched Bhutan, we launched Kashmir,
Ladakh was in place.
Of course, Ladakh was there. Slowly we expanded down to international destinations also. We launched Bali, Vietnam. Now the WanderOn has more than 30 different, let's say, destinations that you can choose from all
Right.
across India, Southeast Asia, and now we are in Europe as well. So like we got the PMF from Himachal Backpacking. It was like an extreme amount of brainstorming that was there. Ki, like what should we do to hit the right chord, right?
Right.
I'll tell you one very interesting data point. Very interesting. Okay. I don't know the exact number. It can be more. But there are, I think, 102 people who have met on WanderOn trips. They came as solo travelers. They've met on WanderOn trips and they got married. They got married. Right? That is the intensity of these trips. That is how people.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is how people are, let's say bonding together.
I'm sure. I think a few of the stories are pretty much in our office only.
Correct.
Our,
Madhusudan Jaju,
exactly.
one of the co-founders.
बहुत ही interesting कहानी
He
है.
met his wife on one of our trips to
I think
Ladakh.
we'll bring him in some episode and we'll
100%.
extensively talk about how his journey was in finding a life partner and a travel partner, right?
Correct. Because you see, when you're traveling, you're like absolutely raw, man. And वहाँ पे कोई filter नहीं है ना? And आप इतने romantic destinations पे जा रहे हो, ठीक है? You're going to like mountains and beaches, and imagine you're going to like romantic cities of the Europe, and you're traveling with like say something who matches your vibe.
Right.
So like imagine the kind of bond that you share, right?
In fact, there is a saying that if you're in a romantic relationship with someone, जब तक आप उसके साथ में travel नहीं कर लेते ना, तब तक आपको exactly नहीं पता चलेगा कि वो person whether they are compatible or not.
It's a compatibility test
Exactly.
that let's say most of the people do outwards. हम लोग सबसे पहले करा देते हैं. Are you compatible? Now you can check and let's say do the rest of the things.
But I think it's for everyone, right? चाहे वो whether you're looking for you're not looking for. You eventually, I think, develop into that kind of a relationship. Could be romantic, could be friends, could be entrepreneurs starting their businesses together.
Yeah, it can be like we don't segregate that.
It's networking.
But I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I think that's enough of a social proof कि जो आपका vision है कि you want to create a platform for social traveling where people can interact, and how loudly we put it out कि trips for like-minded travelers. So I think that we already have a social proof. अगर कोई पूछे, कोई सवाल उठाए तो भाई है ना यहाँ पे लोग
बहुत ज़्यादा है,
in all kind of networking, in all kind of relationships. I think that is established. So many times it happens कि अपने trip पे ऐसे लोग आ रहे हैं जो शायद एक लीप ऑफ फेथ लेते हैं कि यार मैं स्ट्रेंजर्स के साथ में ट्रैवल कर रहा हूँ, एंड पीपल आर कमिंग फ्रॉम ऑल पार्ट्स ऑफ इंडिया, नाउ ऑल पार्ट्स फ्रॉम द वर्ल्ड, एंड वी हैव whenever I have been on the community trip at WanderOn, देखा है कि जैसे साउथ इंडिया से लोग आते हैं, they are avid travelers, like they're hardcore bikers and they have the craze for कि भाई हमें लद्दाख जाना है, स्पीति जाना है, but sometimes they feel that maybe it could be a mental barrier, it could be a language problem, that when they meet people from different parts of India, they are not able to communicate that freely.
Yeah,
कुछ भी inhibition हो सकता है.
correct.
But
And the vice versa is also
हाँ,
true.
the vice versa is all true.
Correct.
So लेकिन I feel कि जो हमने product design किया है,
Yeah.
you know, how the machinery works, how it functions, because you have, you know, people in place and the human connection in place from the beginning. चाहे जब वो social media पे inquire कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पे आपको एक humanly response मिल रहा है, आपको guide किया जा रहा है कि okay, you know, you're in a, like we're not any kind of puff piece या फिर वो जो एक एजेंट मॉडल के साथ में एक जो एक एसोसिएशन है कि
correct,
ट्रस्ट नहीं है,
correct.
पता नहीं सामने बंदा जेन्युइन है या नहीं है,
Correct.
वहाँ से स्टार्ट होता है. उसके बाद में जब वो सेल्स पर्सन से कनेक्ट करता है, सो ऑल दीज पीपल, दिस मशीनरी इज थ्रू आउट विद देम. तो वो एक ट्रस्ट बिल्ड करते करते शायद वो उस बंदे में इतनी हिम्मत आती है कि ठीक है, नाउ आई कैन put my money, and more than money, travel is about the experience.
Correct.
तो वो आप वहाँ पे दे देते हो. I think maybe on the first day I've seen people in their shells, and once they get comfortable with the local support and the local network that we have built throughout, and of course the team captains, the trip leaders, the outdoor leaders that we put in place, I have seen people, I have been friends with people on these trips जो कि शायद एकदम ही जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि यार वी वर नॉट श्योर वेदर वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक और मिंगल विद पीपल और नॉट, एंड I think I have in person made the best memories with them, and I think that pretty much sums की जो reviews वगैरह भी हम देखते हैं, मतलब that is exactly what you have created. I think the problem that you faced is what you have created a solution
See, but
for.
I've read it somewhere in one of the books that like a company is just a reflection of founder's personality.
Yeah. Let's say if I rewind the time, ठीक है, and you're from Bikaner, right?
Yeah.
हाँ. So if we rewind the time and I go to the 15-year-old Govind Gaur, and he is having a conversation with Gigi now, ठीक है? तो 15-16-year-old इसलिए बोल रही हूँ because उस टाइम पे हम लोग शायद 10th 11th में होंगे. तो by that time I think we had figured out कि यार अब engineering की तैयारी करेंगे, IIT NIT के अंदर एडमिशन लेंगे तो अब engineer बन जाएंगे. तो वो जो 15-16 साल का गोविंद गौर होगा, दुबला पतला. No, now you're a man, right? So अब अगर आप मेरी जगह पे वो बंदा बैठा होता, वो बच्चा बैठा होता, so what do you think, like what kind of conversations would you have? Do you think कि that person would feel कि अरे पर ये तो मैंने नहीं सोचा था, या or would that person be proud?
That person would be first of all shocked कि like because like I think he would be shocked and amazed about how unpredictable life is, and what, let's say, what, like if you are there, if you are constantly, if you genuinely want to achieve something, you can do that, right? So that person would be shocked, 100% shocked, but be super proud, 200% super proud, right? So I'll just tell him, like, and not just to him but to any 15-16-year-old boy, right? Just like life is very fragile, just like do it, just like do what you love and just do it, like, just give it a shot, and then I think one thing that, let's say, differentiate from good to great, right, is the courage, right? A lot of people are talented, Nancy, a lot of them, right? But the people who are genuinely courageous about it, right, they do wonders, right? I have the perfect example in front of me, which is you, right? You are like let's say person. I'm just telling this to you that you are very unconventional. You have let's say break all the shackles of how like an Indian woman should be and how you are, right? You were, let's say, working in a, like, you are from NIT, you were working in a different setup, right? And then let's say coming, like, we all come from a very conservative family because we all are, let's say, small town people, right? I can proudly say that I'm a small town guy. Like, we value relationship, right? We are very forward in our thinking, but like we are very laid back in our relation. We are like very backward, old school in our relationship, and I love that. I value people. Like, small town people, they value relationship, right? So you are that. You are a perfect example, right? You are the one who has broken all the shackles and, like, fought with your family, have difficult conversations with your family, and then doing something very non-conventional, right? Unconventional in, let's say, every which way. So I think you should be the perfect, let's say, inspiration for like a lot of women out there to actually do what you love and just to like not say not follow what society says to you, but like follow what your heart wants to.
Yeah,
right?
I think how life gives you an opportunity to choose, you know, whether you want to be courageous or you just want to play safe and maybe get lost in the crowd. So, and especially like, you just said, keep being a woman. So, the kind of society that we are in, especially like the Indian society, तो हैं कुछ sentiments ऐसे already, pre-established कि it is, I think it is a little more difficult, you have
Correct.
explained your journey up till now.
Correct.
And it has been so challenging for you.
Correct.
So as a woman, I think it almost gets 2x.
Correct.
To take any kind of unconventional decision for herself.
Correct.
So I think the same has been for me also. But मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि जितनी जल्दी आप ये पता कर लो कि आपको क्या नहीं करना है, उतनी जल्दी शायद आप उस डायरेक्शन में मूव कर जाते हो कि आपको क्या करना है.
Correct.
तो आई थिंक I'll make a confession here कि जब हम कॉलेज में थे ना, although like you were an year senior to me, हम दोनों सेम ब्रांच से हैं. फॉर दोज हू डोंट नो, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड कम्युनिकेशन भाई NIT कुरुक्षेत्र का सबसे ड्रेडेड डिपार्टमेंट है, सबसे ड्रेडेड डिपार्टमेंट, एंड दैट्स व्हाट वी navigated through. And while we were always like the popular kids club representatives एक तरीके से, जब मैं आपको ऐसे देखती थी ना, इट्स एन ऑनेस्ट कन्फेशन, भाई 6 फुट 4 इंच का बंदा, ठीक है ना, अथॉरिटेटिव, असर्टिव, एंड थोड़ा लिंगो भी ऐसा है कि हाँ थोड़ी है ना, गाली वाली थोड़ा हाँ सब चलता है. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि क्या ऐसा गुंडा लोग टाइप का, ठीक है ना. तो आई थॉट कि ठीक है यार, गोविंद सर मतलब थोड़े ऐसे वो गुंडा पर्सनालिटी है. तो मैं यू रिमेंबर व्हेन वी वेंट टू कसौल खीर गंगा, and I think that was Independence Day, a long weekend. Already rush ka weekend, and we had just like WanderOn had just begun then. I was a client, right? And the only thing we knew कि हाँ मेरे college के startup है, आप थे, सैंडी था साथ में. तो उस ट्रिप बुक करने तक भी मेरी ऐसी कोई खास एक्सपेक्टेशन थी नहीं कि मतलब क्या है क्या नहीं है, ठीक है देखेंगे, आई जस्ट नीड अ ब्रेक, अ वीकेंड ब्रेक. वहाँ पे जब मैंने आपको देखा, एक तो मतलब इट वाज अ ट्रैकिंग 2 डे के अंदर ट्रैकिंग, तो ओवरनाइट जर्नी करनी. हम आई थिंक वी वर अ बैच ऑफ 35 पीपल, है ना. वो ओवरनाइट वो जर्नी करनी, उसके बाद में आई थिंक यू वर नॉट इवन स्लीपिंग और व्हाटएवर इट वाज. एंड उसके बाद में फिर हमने ट्रैक किया पूरे दिन का. एंड आई हैव दिस विविड पिक्चर ऑफ यू. You were wearing like a harem. You had your bun that was still growing, and you were wearing a shirt, and you were like sweating your shit out. ऐसा वाला scene था, because you were, trekking from one point. Now 35 people are going in a line, so you're trekking from one point to another. Then you're rushing back in the middle of it again to make sure that whether the group is moving together. And since it was the beginning of it, so I'm very sure कि operationally भी चीजें बैक एंड पे इतनी सॉर्टेड नहीं होंगी, ठीक है ना. फिर अगले दिन में देखा तो यू वर आउट देयर इन द किचन, द कॉमन किचन जहाँ पे हमारा कैंप लगा था, एंड यू वर मेकिंग सैंडविचेस एंड सर्विंग देम टू ऑल द क्लाइंट्स टू मेक श्योर कि ग्रुप टाइम से चलता रहे. गोविंद, आई थिंक दैट वाज द कैनन इवेंट ऑफ माई लाइफ वेयर आई विटनेस्ड कि भाई नहीं, दिस गाय इज he's serious about what he is doing. और वो एक dedication और वो दिखा कि नहीं इसके अंदर ना वो he has that fire in the belly. तो I think that is when I put my trust in WanderOn कि जो भी ये काम बना रहे हैं, जो भी ये कर रहे हैं, ये चल जाएगा. This will be through.
I like when you were narrating the story, right? It was like flashbacking in front of me, like एक पूरा story मेरे दिमाग में ऐसे flashback हो रहा है. एंड लाइक उसके अलावा इतना सारा 90 पता है क्या है ना, आई टेल यू वेरी ऑनेस्टली, माई होल प्रोसेस वॉज कि उस समय वो चीज़ सही से होनी चाहिए सो दैट पीपल हैव अ नाइस एक्सपीरियंस. इफ आई कैन हेल्प डू इट बेटर, आई डू इट, राइट. एंड आई हैव डन दैट फॉर मोस्ट पार्ट ऑफ माई लाइफ. राइट नाउ आई डू इट. आई लीड ऑपरेशंस. लाइक अभी मैं रिसेंटली आई वेंट टू द यूरोप बैकपैकिंग ट्रिप, राइट. सो आई एम नॉट,
आई वाज एक्चुअली कमिंग टू दैट कि कहाँ अपनी जो अभी मेमोरी हमने डिस्कस की है वो एक कसौल खीर गंगा 2 night 3 day का ट्रिप है, ठीक है ना. 35 people we are taking. क्या टिकट साइज was like hardly 6,000-7,000 rupees. And now recently, like I think it's been a week
Week,
that
yeah.
you've come back from, like I think about almost a month in Europe, leading our
Europe
community
community trip,
trips,
yeah,
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 back to back.
yeah,
So, like, tell us more about it. Like, how was your experience? What is your emotion?
yeah.
What
So I
is it?
think so I think life come back full circle. I took my inspiration from coming to Europe, seeing the backpacking culture here, and I wanted to do something similar for the Indian setup, right? That was like my eureka moment. And then coming back here 6 years later and doing everything, I was reflecting upon it. Like every city I was going, I was in Paris, I was in Amsterdam, I was in Prague, I was in Berlin. I was just like sitting at one place. I was just reflecting upon everything that we have been through. You know, I was just reflecting. Yeah, I used to take people on the streets of Kasol.
Huh.
Now, fast forward, I'm just taking them here on the streets of
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
I knew the
Right,
comparison.
Amsterdam. Very obvious, but like obvious but not obvious. Yeah. So I was just reflecting upon it, man. Ki how beautiful life is, and I'll tell you, as an entrepreneur, these are the signs that you look for, and these are the validation that you look for, that hey, like you have, like you were there and you are here now, right? I think the only comparison that you have to do in your life is with like your positions. If you start comparing yourself with other people, there is no point, because जहाँ पे भी आप जाओगे कोई ना कोई तो आपसे आगे रहेगा ही, right?
So is this like your fulfillment moment?
Kind of fulfillment. As an entrepreneur, you don't get a lot of fulfillment moment, but I think this was like one setup where you do, like it was like a sign from the universe that hey, you have done something. Just be there and reflect upon it and be a little proud of let's say what you have done.
While we have broken a lot of stereotypes
Yeah.
in what we are doing, I think one stereotype that we have stuck with is कि engineering करने के अलावा सब कुछ करता है. So how true is it?
I think once I went into the college, I was like, भाई college आ गए हैं and बहुत पढ़ाई कर ली है, अब थोड़ा chill करेंगे. And when I say chill, it means that I was actively involved into organizing.
ये बहुत खतरनाक mindset नहीं होता. ये भाई मेरा
सबका
भी
होता
था.
है ये,
हाँ.
सबका होता है ये. Like मतलब I have seen people like who are like branch openers, rag openers, and they are like college में आते ही सबकी सप्ली आ रही है, ठीक है, सब लोग पास होने के सबके लाले पड़े हुए हैं, बिकॉज यार कॉलेज में आके फिर लाइक वो बंदा थोड़ा सा चिल हो जाता है लाइफ में, यार कि बहुत पढ़ाई कर ली, अब थोड़ा चिल करते हैं, है ना, बहुत हो गया पढ़ाई, लाइक वी आर
ये बड़ा मतलब ऐसा टर्निंग पॉइंट हो जाता है बहुत लोगों के लिए.
बहुत लोगों की लाइफ में. बट लेकिन क्या होता है नैन्सी, वो टर्निंग पॉइंट है, बट लाइक यू शुड बी अवेयर अबाउट व्हाट यू आर डूइंग. ऐसा नहीं है कि यू जस्ट लाइक गो देयर टू स्पॉइल. Let's say if you're not good with studies, or let's say if you're not great with studies, you can be average with studies, but like do something that increases your skills. Yeah, so like I was actively involved into a lot of events, let's say a lot of festivals that used to happen in our college, right? हमारे college में conference होता था, tech स्पर्धा होता था, है ना, talent hunt होता था, बहुत सारे हमारे college में like at least in like 12 months 4-5 फेस्टिवल्स होते थे, छोटे और बड़े लेवल.
एंड हम लोग उसी के अंदर ही
like,
उसी प्रिपरेशन
हमारी
में
लाइफ
निकाल
वही
देते
थी
थे.
कॉलेज में, है ना, कि we
आई एम
used to
श्योर.
like let's say get sponsorship from people, convince people to buy tickets, selling let's say tickets, let's say like मेरे को याद है फर्स्ट ईयर में हम लोगों ने हनी सिंह बुलाया था. हनी सिंह वाज अ क्रेजी नेम दैट टाइम.
ओह दैट रील इज गोइंग वायरल.
Yeah.
आज वो इंस्टाग्राम पे रील वायरल हो रही है, तो लोग देख के बताएंगे एनआईटी कुरुक्षेत्र का है.
तो हम लोगों ने like
ये
I was-
क्लिप इंसर्ट कर देना उसके अंदर. हनी सिंह वाला वो पुशअप्स मार रहा है भाई ओएटी पे.
है ना. तो आई थिंक यार we were like, I was not good with studies, है ना, and I don't regret it because I was actively involved into doing all of these stuff which was like a crazy learning experience in itself. अब फर्स्ट ईयर कॉलेज में हो, आप हनी सिंह के पीए से बात कर रहे हो, आप पूरा फेस्टिवल ऑर्गेनाइज करा रहे हो.
Ooh, the confidence and the
Yeah.
हवा that you must be.
या मतलब लाइक यू आर लाइक मैन यू आर देयर, है ना, लाइक पढ़ाई वढ़ाई चले भाई अपन, है ना, you are managing festival of like 2000 people, you are selling tickets, you are getting sponsorship, so technically you don't know about it, but your convincing skill, your sales skill is getting developed there. Your
Right.
skill of let's say talking to bigger people and convincing them and being around them and being in that aura, all of that skill was developing into me in the initial 4 years. I was actively involved into doing everything apart from studies. College mein
Would you like to tell a little about Mustafa Zahid's sponsorship
man,
that
no,
you
no,
want?
no, no, no.
Little
I
you can. I think थोड़ा उसको हम वो कर देंगे, edit कर देंगे, थोड़ा सा censored uncensored में बता
I think
सकते
that
हो.
was like one of the crazy experience. Final year की बात है. Mustafa Zahid is a Pakistani artist. तो यार वो उसको हम लोगों को लेके आना था
द तेरा मेरा रिश्ता सिंगर.
हाँ हाँ, ही वाज वेरी फेमस. तो उस समय लाइक मतलब इंडिया लाइक है ना, कुरुक्षेत्र बीइंग कुरुक्षेत्र, तो वहाँ पे लाइक इतना जल्दी से पाकिस्तानियों को वो लोग इतना प्रोमिनेंटली वो नहीं करते थे, अलाउ नहीं करते थे. वो कहते थे यार इंडियन सिंगर बहुत है, पाकिस्तानी क्यों लेके आ रहे हो.
हाँ.
बट बजट कंस्ट्रेंट की वजह से सो मेनी थिंग्स वर देयर. उस समय फेमस भी था, तो सो वी वांटेड हिम टू कम. उसको दिल्ली का वीज़ा मिला हुआ था, लेकिन पता लगा हमें कि दिल्ली का वीज़ा से काम नहीं चलेगा. उसको अगर कुरुक्षेत्र आना, उसको कुरुक्षेत्र का वीज़ा चाहिए
सेपरेटली
होगा,
बनेगा. ओके.
चाहिएगा बना है ना. और
तो ये वीज़ा प्रॉब्लम आप तब से सॉल्व कर रहे हो.
तो मतलब दैट वाज आई थिंक मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स की बिल्डिंग तक भी हम, मतलब वहाँ तक भी हम गए हैं.
कॉलेज के लौंडे.
कॉलेज के लौंडे, मतलब 21 साल के लौंडे अपने स्विफ्ट डिज़ायर पार्क करके एमएचए के अंदर जाके हमने एप्लीकेशन दी है कि इसका वीज़ा लगवा दो. ठीक है, वीज़ा आया है उसका. ठीक है, और वो बंदा परफॉर्म करने के लिए आया है. हमारा नाम, हमारे कॉलेज ने तो मना कर दिया था कि हम रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं लेंगे कुछ भी हो गया तो. इट वाज मी एंड कुणाल साही, वन ऑफ माय कॉलेज फ्रेंड. उन लोगों का नाम गया एमएचए पे कि ये लोग रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले रहे हैं कॉलेज के लेटर हेड पे ऑफ कोर्स, कि लाइक प्रोफेसर ने मना कर दिया कि हम नहीं लेंगे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. तो वहाँ से वो बंदा आया है, हमारे नंबर गए हैं. तो मुझे बाद में पता लगा, एक दिन मैं सुबह सुबह उठाऊँ, कॉलेज फेस्टिवल ख़त्म होने के 2 दिन बाद में एसपी का फ़ोन आया मेरे पास में कुरुक्षेत्र थाने से. गोविंद बात कर रहा है, हरियाणवी टोन में. गोविंद बात कर रहा है. मैं कहा सर, कि मैं थाने से एसपी बात कर रहा हूँ. तुम्हारा फ़ोन टैप हो रहा था इतने 4-5 दिन से ना, तुमने पाकिस्तानी आर्टिस्ट बुला रखे थे. तो मैं कहा सर क्या बात कर रहे हो. कह रहा हाँ. तो उन्होंने फ़ोन टैप तक भी हुए हैं हमारे फॉर द सिक्योरिटी रीजंस ऑफ इट, राइट. सो इट वाज दैट इंटेंस. अब आप सोचो, कॉलेज में अगर आप ये सब चीज़ें कर रहे हो, सो द काइंड ऑफ करेज दैट यू बिल्ड, यार ये सब कर लिया यार, अब क्या यार, हम तो शुरू कर सकते हैं ना. सो आई थिंक आवर कॉलेज वाज अ ब्लेसिंग in so many things. I think the kind of exposure that we have got, managing events, sharpening the skills of frugality, money management, है ना. So I think this is for all the folks who are there in college, right? If you're not good with studies, that's okay. You can always try to be good at that because that's of course there. But like you can always be a part of all of these cultural setups because you
I
don't
think,
know.
Make the most of whatever is around you.
Correct. You don't know how that particular thing will come back to you and help you in your life in future.
Yeah. So I think this has been an interesting chat. But before we wrap it up, मेरा बचपन से सपना था, मैं तो एकदम ही मतलब टीवी देख के, बॉलीवुड देख के बड़ी पली हुई हूँ. तो वी हैव सीन दीज कॉफ़ी टेबल कॉन्वर्सेशंस विद कॉफ़ी विद करण. तो हमने एक छोटा सा रैपिड फायर राउंड रखा है. सो मेरे दिमाग में पीछे वो बज रहा है ना 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 ना. So we are going to close this with a quick rapid fire. But we'll keep it for the audience. We'll keep it travel related. Okay. Cool. So let's begin.
Cool.
Okay. So Govind, how many countries have you traveled to? Name all.
Okay. I'll name all and then we can probably add
this is a rapid fire.
Okay. So I've traveled to Bhutan, I've traveled to Vietnam, I've traveled to Bali, I've traveled to Japan, I've traveled to Dubai, I've traveled to Azerbaijan, I've traveled to Armenia, and then I've traveled to Prague, Czech Republic basically, I've traveled to France, I've traveled to Italy, I've traveled to Switzerland, I've traveled to Spain, I've traveled to Poland, and I've, what else? I think it's around 25 countries. Like I'm just like missing some of them, but yeah, around that.
Okay, that's a long list.
Yeah.
Okay, from all these places that you have been to, which had the worst food according to you? Worst food? Which country?
Bhutan maybe.
Okay, best food, which country?
India, and then I love Japanese food. Japan was like,
really?
Yeah, it was the best food. Like wow.
Okay, all right. So this is like a this or that question now. Very basic. Mountains or beaches?
Mountain, 100% mountain.
Okay. Food poisoning on a trip or sunburn on a trip?
Sunburn, 100%.
Okay. Would you lose your luggage or have a bad weather on your vacation?
I will have a bad weather on my luggage because I like,
have a bad weather on your luggage?
Sorry, have a bad weather on. Sorry. We'll do that again. Okay. फिर से और कट कर देना.
Okay. If you could pick a female and male brand ambassador for WanderOn from Bollywood, who would they be?
I think Pankaj Tripathi for the male part because he's very sorted, he's very calm, and he's very jolly in his nature, and like he promotes traveling a lot. उसका एक podcast था जिसमें बताता था कि हिंदुस्तान सबको ट्रैवल करना चाहिए, है ना, बहुत सस्ता है यहाँ पे ट्रैवल करना, सबको जाना चाहिए, सब देश देखना चाहिए, सब मज़ेदार है. तो Pankaj Tripathi 100% for let's say the male brand ambassador, and then Kareena Kapoor for the female. Yeah,
Okay. But why Kareena Kapoor?
she's very chirpy, and like I think she just creates like I love her. I love her energy. And I think like she's like the true babo that we want for our
मतलब
brand.
एक गीत तो होनी चाहिए,
एक
है ना?
गीत तो होनी चाहिए 100%.
Okay. Okay, Govind. What is that one thing that you can absolutely not travel without, but you also cannot tell about that thing to your parents? It's a rapid fire.
Like I cannot tell it to my parents.
You cannot tell it to your parents, but that is something that you always carry with you once you're
Maybe
traveling.
a condom box. Okay. Yeah.
ठीक है,
Maybe a
good. Better
cigarette
safe
box.
than sorry.
Or maybe a cigarette box.
Better
like,
safe than sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. अब तो देख लेंगे. आंटी तो follow करती हैं.
Yeah. सही में यार.
3 people you would want to have as guests in future on Scene Kyaa Hai?
Okay. I can have Pankaj Tripathi 100%. I can have Tanya Khanijau, and I can have Samir Raina.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. I would probably have him to roast us, right, on our podcast. I think that will be super nice.
वो होगा सबसे viral podcast,
Yeah.
I think.
I think we'll be there very soon.
Very good. Inshallah, Govind. I think upwards and onwards, as I said, on this journey.
Yeah.
So wrapping up our first conversation
Yeah,
here
thank you
on
so
Scene
much.
Kyaa Hai.
Yeah.
And if you want to leave like a parting message to the audience, what would it be for this particular the series that we have begun with?
I think this is the first first podcast, let's say podcast that we are recording, but I think it will be all things travel. People will look forward, people can look forward to a lot of very interesting conversations around traveling, around let's say traveling stories, opportunities around travel. So Scene Kyaa Hai is basically people's scene. Let's say it can be one of their go-to podcasts if they want to just like hear some very interesting stories around travel, and if someone wants to build a very interesting career around traveling, meet a lot of interesting folks in traveling. So I think that is what people can look forward to.
All right, that's great. And with this, let's sign off.
Yeah, signing off, guys, from Scene Kyaa Hai.
All right, and don't forget to subscribe to all our channels that are going to be for Scene Kyaa Hai, be it YouTube, be it Spotify, or any other podcast channels where you get your podcast from. We'll be everywhere.